Hey Rebels, welcome back to the channel. So the altcoins are looking pretty exciting right now, and I wanted to dive into a late weekly analysis as well as dive into some seasonal things that I'm seeing popping up on the charts that you want to be aware of. If you want to be profitable in the next 6 months, how can we prepare for what's coming? I think that we are probably entering the last phase of the bull market, which is going to be the most exciting, volatile part of the bull market. But there are a couple things heading this way that I think we ought to be aware of just so that we don't get shaken out. So if that sounds good, just like and subscribe. We're just going to dive right into the weekly analysis. Yes, I'm a couple days late. So last week we had a weekly close below this trend line we've been tracking for a very long time from the 2017 peak to the 2021 peak. You can see that it's acted as resistance several times. We created this inverse head and shoulders. Seems like we've broken out down for a retest on this horizontal, and we've seen some positive price action from that point. I didn't really like this weekly close below, but obviously that can change very quickly, which is why you need to come back to the charts every day, every week. And since then, we had a nice strong close, basically fully engulfing this week's price action. The other thing that I have here that I found on the channel for quite some time is this speed line. Sometimes it's very helpful to draw a draw a speed line basically from the previous move, just from the low to the high, and then project it from the low of the next move just to get an idea. Is this next leg stronger or weaker? You can see right off the bat it was much stronger, and we hit this resistance. And on the channel I was saying I was definitely expecting a pause. Sometimes we need time to catch up with the price, and that's exactly what we've had happen. So basically we've respected this speed line this entire time. We're in very strong territory. All in all, Bitcoin is in very, very strong territory. Where we go from here exactly, nobody knows. So that's why we have to come back to the charts and do our analysis. So there's a seasonal pattern that I wanted to show basically in the August, September, October timeframe that I'm seeing. And I've highlighted that basically going back through the cycle. So we're just going to kind of walk through and just see seasonally what happens. Typically is we find some kind of low. You can see that we usually have some kind of correction or low in the August, September timeframe. In bull and bear markets, you can see that we corrected through August into September before we found a low here. This one's kind of minor, but you can see in August we did start to correct. Obviously, we corrected even into November. This is a bear market. I am more interested in the bull markets, but you can see that this seasonality shows up in the stock market and also in Bitcoin. So really all I've done is just highlight the August, September timeframes. And you can see that typically, even if we have good price action through August, we will have some kind of correction either in August or September, and you can just see that highlighted here. Typically some kind of correction, some kind of correction. This was also in the bear market. What I have highlighted in the thumbnail is maybe something a little bit more like this. We're at the tail end of the cycle. This is not saying that this is exactly what the price action is going to look like, but it's just an idea that we are seeing positive price action right here, and it's very exciting in the market. I'm expecting some kind of pullback. Typically, these pullbacks later in the cycle are a little bit more violent and quicker. This doesn't look like much here, but that was actually a 40% correction in 2 weeks. So that can be pretty jarring to anybody, especially if you're new to the market. But then you can see what tends to follow, and it is the parabolic phase where basically all the retail piles in and everybody is correct in the very end of the cycle. Basically, this entire cycle, every peak, everybody's been calling the top, and we're just starting to enter the phase of the market where everybody is going to be a believer and everybody is going to come up. We're already seeing the news headlines. There's hundreds of reasons why Bitcoin is never going to go down and it's up only forever, and you get these outrageous price targets. But on this channel, I like to kind of just sober up a little bit and just look at the data and look at what the charts say, because the charts will lead the way. Okay, right? So either way, the whole point of this, going back, and you can do this for yourself. I highly advise you to do this yourself, just so you can kind of see what happens seasonally. This happens in the stock market as well, and typically Bitcoin and altcoins, being the higher risk assets, are not going to perform well if the stock market is also seeing some kind of seasonal slowdown. That doesn't mean the cycle is over. Typically, it ends the year strong. So I'm based on other cycle analysis, we can see that typically Q4 is the strongest quarter in crypto. And so anyway, but I did just want to highlight that if you're new to crypto, or even if you've been around a while, it's just because right now things are looking very, very exciting. If I let's see, let's reset this chart here, and you can see that Ethereum is looking very, very exciting. especially on the daily. We have this fourth time breakout, this 3-year resistance. We've basically been in some kind of accumulation for the last 3 years, and we are breaking into fresh highs and targeting the all-time high, right? Okay, but the thing here that I want to point out in the very short term, anyway, is we are getting quite overextended on this swing. Typically, anything over 7 bars in a single swing direction is going to indicate some kind of overextension. So I just want to keep in mind that, what time frame are we looking at? Well, longer term, longer to midterm, I think we're going to finish out the year strongly, but we do seem to have a seasonal pattern where there is a correction into August, September, even October timeframes. Okay, and then really what that's going to do is provide us with more opportunity. Okay, but that's basically where I wanted to just draw your attention to that, because this looks like a very exciting chart. I would not be getting into Ethereum right now because we are extended on multiple time frames on the daily and even on the weekly. If you go back in time, I won't do this on this video, but if you go back and look in time and see how many weeks does Ethereum experience to the upside before a major correction, we are absolutely getting to that kind of exhausted phase, right? And that doesn't mean it's over for Ethereum. It just means like right now is not a good entry on Ethereum. You want to be very careful and keeping your emotions in check when you're looking at a chart, because this looks like a very exciting chart, and it does seem that we are going to target new highs and breach it to all-time high, or uncharted territory, which can be very exciting. And the charts can get very vertical. You can see every time we've breached previous highs, we do usually have a final push and a very large expansion after that. So I'm basically anticipating that at some point here in the next few months, we are going to have some kind of correction followed by another expansion phase. So we just have to be a little bit careful with that. So the other thing that is very exciting, if I look on a longer term chart as well, is the Bitcoin dominance breaking down. We've been waiting for this for a very long time. You can see effectively when Bitcoin dominance falls rapidly, that is when a lot of this money goes into other sectors of the market, whether it be Ethereum, the other large caps, you name it. It's when Bitcoin dominance falls rapidly is when that appreciation happens. That's basically a bull market for altcoins, and that's basically what most people are here for. I mean, nobody was really interested in Bitcoin, possibly until now, even though Bitcoin has produced 700% returns or more in the last several years, kind of quietly, just steadily grinding up and gaining dominance in the entire market. But right now, it looks as though we are threatening this trend line that we've had from the very beginning, right? We're basically threatening that right now. Would not be surprised to see some kind of bounce from here or a pause from here before we break down. This is a major trend, so sometimes these things can take a little while to break down in a larger way, but that's what we're going to be tracking. So far, we do see lots of signs of weakness, and we've been tracking for a long time on the channel this descending wedge that was in the Bitcoin dominance here. I think we started somewhere about there, something like so fashion, maybe even like so. We had a little fake out here, but then it's broken down in a even larger way. So basically the next range to tackle is this diagonal, and then basically it's open ground until this resistance. And really every other cycle we've effectively targeted this area down here. So there's lots of room to the downside for Bitcoin dominance, which I would say means the potential for lots of room to upside for the altcoins, essentially. So this is altcoins versus Bitcoin. I've done this several times on the channel. Let me just copy this here, clone that, move that on over. Effectively, this is kind of what I'm seeing here. So this is where we're at. Altcoins outperform very rapidly for a very brief period at the end of the cycle, and then they give it all back to Bitcoin, right? So now, probably not the best time to be in Bitcoin. Bitcoin has performed very well for the last several years. Now it's probably time to be more interested in the other altcoins, because effectively what happens is that all the people that missed the boat on Bitcoin are now going to be looking for the next opportunity. Well, the next opportunity was Ethereum. Now Ethereum has run up quite hard. If you're new to the market, you're thinking, well, I missed the boat on Ethereum. Now what am I going to do? And this is just a natural progression that happens, and people find themselves farther and farther down the risk curve because they have to go farther and farther down the risk curve to see those same gains, basically, that they missed out on for the several years. But the good hopium here, and I'm going to do a video shortly on this, is that we've broken this trend line here found support and broken into fresh highs here. So I definitely think that we have started the altcoin season. Every other pump that we've had, although there's been a lot of good tradable ranges and a lot of good trades during this time, we haven't seen this long prolonged where we have weeks and weeks of altcoin outperforming Bitcoin. And I think that that's basically where we're at right now. Been tracking on that on the channel for quite some time. USDT market cap, this is how many dollars are coming in to the space, and you can see that dollars are absolutely flooding in a pretty unprecedented way, just like they did back in 2021. This is a 2021 bull market. You basically have money coming in, and then there's absolute acceleration towards the end. We've had a nice steady climb here, and you can see that we're just continuing to accelerate as far as the number of dollars coming into the space. So that is exciting to see. USDT dominance on the verge of potentially breaking down even further. Okay, next target would be this trend line, and then what we really want to see for mega alt season is a break of this resistance or this support here. If we can flip that into resistance, well then basically we're going to get an altcoin mania. You can pretty much throw money at anything and you're probably going to do really well. So effectively, I would say the largest amount of gains in the altcoin space happen at the tail end of the cycle. I think that's where we're entering, and a lot of people are going to take that as easy money. It's not going to be easy money because of the things like the correction in August, September. People aren't really going to be expecting that. They see the price action climbing. They're going to ape into the market. The market's going to drop against them 40%. That's losing half the value. It's going to be very scary. So in order to hold on to that with conviction, it's going to take a lot of guts, basically. And you don't really want to be aping into charts that look like the Ethereum chart. So I'm going to record a video very soon right now, actually, and then I'm going to release it later in the week, and I'm going to show different various things that you want to be looking for when you're looking to enter the market, things to avoid, things like XRP and Ethereum and Hyperliquid. You're going to want to avoid those kinds of things. You're going to want to look for other setups that have yet to pump, okay, because there is going to be a capital rotation. Crypto is basically a giant degenerate gambling casino. It is starting to be more legitimized, but still it's at the very tail end of the risk curve. And so basically money that's been made in real estate moves to the stock market, then from the stock market to things like Bitcoin, and then from things like Bitcoin to Ethereum, and then from Ethereum on down the line we go. And it's just going to basically be a kind of a mania phase of liquidity rushing into the market. And it's not necessarily going to be an easy ride, but if you have a calm head and you learn how to read the market as it stands and learn how to read the tape in real time, which is what we do on the channel, and analyze things on a weekly basis to kind of zoom out and basically stay away from the crowd, because we don't really want to be following the crowd, because 90% of people don't make money in this market, or any market for that matter. Yeah, just zooming out on a weekly time frame to get an idea of where we stand can be a very powerful thing. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Basically very strong territory, targeting new all-time high territory. We'll see what the week brings. We did have one little warning sign that can definitely be a fake out, things that you want to avoid. We had this breakout right here, and this bar looked very exciting at the beginning of the day, and then it closed very low. It actually closed below these tops. Intermediate, that can be a sign of a potential slowdown. Does not mean that it's all over. But this is just a very intermediate warning sign that this right here is one week candle that I did want to mention. We have continued to respect this speed line for now, but we will just have to see what happens over the next coming days and weeks. When are we going to find that seasonal correction, and how are we going to get ourselves positioned accordingly and take advantage of that correction potentially, and maybe that will provide us with some good solid entries. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully that was helpful. Like and subscribe for some more, and we'll get into another video shortly. All right, later guys.